You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 73. Shwanda becomes king of Hanjong. Guanyu captures Xiangyang. It is pretty clear to Kong Ming where Cao Cao will go when he has to retreat. As a result, he sends Ma Chao to ensure as difficult a departure for Cao Cao as possible. Hounded by Ma Chao at every opportunity, the Wei troops suffer heavily and morale collapses. Although he is in severe pain from his wound, Cao Cao has no option but to speed up the retreat. Only when he at last reaches Chang'an do he and his men feel safe and rest. Meanwhile, because of his retreat, the places around Hanjong fall to Shwanda's men, and others surrender once they know that Shwanda will ensure peace and security to the ordinary people. Following these successes, Shwanda's commanders are keen for him to become emperor, and they raise this with Kong Ming. So Kong Ming comes to see Shwanda and says, Cao Cao has seized so much power that the true ruler has been usurped. You're renowned for your benevolence and have brought peace back to these regions. You control the land of Shu. Now is the appropriate time to be obedient to the will of heaven and of the people, and become the emperor. Then you can be a true blessing by righteously destroying the traitor. Do not hesitate, indeed chose the auspicious day. Surely you're wrong, exclaims Shwanda. Although I'm of the lineage of the House of Han, I'm also just a denizen of the country. If I do this I'll be seen as a rebel. That's not true, says Kong Ming. The country is ripped apart by adventurers who seize what they can. Everywhere those who have been loyal, virtuous and brave have risked death trying to be honorable. They all long for a true emperor. They wish to be carried by the strength of a dragon, to fly with a phoenix, and thus to have their own names honored. If, for fear of being criticized, you turn aside, you'll lose the support of the people. Please, think again. This I cannot do, so instead you need to think again. If you continue to say no, the people's hearts will harden against you, say those around him. Then Kong Ming says, if taking the title of emperor is too much for a man of your virtue, then would you be prepared to have the title of king of Hanjong, given you now control Jingzhou and Shu? Only if the emperor will offer this. Otherwise this would still be rebellion, says Shwanda. Surely, says Kong Ming, the point is that this is no ordinary time, and therefore to depart from convention is essential. Don't hold on to what is no longer useful. Into this discourse Zhang Fei suddenly breaks, shouting, you at least are a Han, but others who have no such name are trying to take over. Forget just being a king of Hanzhong. You deserve to be the emperor. Enough, snaps Shwanda at Zhang Fei, you've said too much. Look, says Kong Ming, let's recognize where we are today. Take the title of king, and later we'll petition the emperor. So at last, after turning it down 3 times, as convention demands, Shwanda agrees, and in late AD 219 he is crowned with full ritual, facing south, with the 5 directions marked on a specially created altar. He appoints his son Lu Shan as his heir, and Guanyu, Zhang Fei, Zhao Zilong, Ma Chao and Huang Zhong are named the 5 tiger generals. Wei Yan is made governor of Hanjong. Then Shwanda writes to the emperor. In his long and dutiful letter, he regrets his inability to overcome the forces that have set at naught the imperial family. Recalling the first such abuses by Dongzhou, he traces the ills that have befallen the imperial family back to that traitor. He recounts how he and others have risen to defend the throne, often aided not just by their own efforts, but by the will of heaven itself. Now all that remains is to take down Cao Cao, whose growing ambition has usurped the authority and power of the emperor. He writes about the plot that he and Dongqing hatched which failed through a breach in security. He points out that this left only him to fight on, having to flee from place to place. Because of this, Cao Cao was able to murder the empress unopposed and poison the heir apparent. Quoting from history, he argues that nothing is better or more appropriate for an imperial family than to promote and support its own members, even the most distant branches thereof. This, he argues, is especially necessary when someone as ambitious as Cao Cao is usurping and corrupting the court and seizing power. It is in the light of this that he, Shwanda, as a member of the imperial family, has agreed to the call by his own people to take up the mantle of family responsibility and become king of Hanjong. He then talks about the pressure he has been under and how he has wrestled with his conscience. The key issue, however, is that the traitor Cao Cao has not been executed yet, and as a result the ancestral temple is in peril, and the shrine for the well-being of the nation threatened. This could drive a man to despair, he says, but he has chosen to rise to the occasion by accepting the role of king. Now, though he trembles to think of the audacious act he has undertaken, he can as a result rally the people to him so that heaven can bless him and the imperial family. When Cao Cao hears that Shwanda has been made king, his fury knows no bounds. That lowlife, straw sandalmaker. Now I'll destroy him. And so saying, he orders an invasion force to be prepared to attack Shu. However, wiser heads intervene, and then one of those in the court previously unnoticed by Cao Cao steps forward. His name is Sima Yi. He says, "Don't waste your energy on long-distance campaigns out of righteous anger. There's a simpler means of bringing Shwanda down without firing a single arrow, and it only requires one general." Amused but also intrigued, Cao Cao asks, "And what is this plan?" There exists great enmity between Sun Quan and Shwanda over the fate of Sun Quan's sister, the wife of Shwanda, and over the contentious issue of Jingzhou, Sima Yi says. "Let's send a letter to Sun Quan suggesting he attacks and captures Jingzhou, which will mean Shwanda will have to rush to its defense, and we can easily recapture Hanjong." Cao Cao is much taken with this suggestion, and so it is agreed. Advisor Manchong is chosen to take the letter to Sun Quan. Upon receipt of the proposal, Sun Quan and his advisors decide that this is too good an offer to refuse. Manchong returns with this news, while Sun Quan also decides to see what Guanyu is up to in Jingzhou. He sends Kong Ming's brother Zhuge Jin to ask Guanyu for the hand of his daughter in marriage to his son. The proposal is met with total horror by Guanyu. "Marry my tiger's child to a mere mongrel's offspring. Why, if it wasn't for the fact that your brother is Kong Ming, I would have had you executed," and with that Zhuge Jin is driven out of the city. So plans are laid by Sun Quan and Cao Cao to attack, starting with Manchong going to Fanqing to prepare for an assault on Jingzhou in partnership with Cao Ren. This is Sun Quan's ploy for using the troops of Cao Cao to soften up the enemy resistance. When Shwanda hears of the pact between Cao Cao and Sun Quan, he asks Kong Ming what to do next. "Well, this isn't exactly a surprise," says Kong Ming. "And you can be sure that Sun Quan's advisors are behind the plan that Cao Ren attacks first. So let's send a messenger to Guanyu and have him attack and capture Fanqing itself. That should put the cat among the pigeons and break up this alliance." Ordered to do this, Guanyu begins to prepare and appoints two key officials to lead the attack, Fu Shiren and Mi Fong. But celebrating their promotion, these two get drunk. In their befuddled state they leave a fire smoldering. This bursts into flames, resulting in the loss of weapons, food and transport, while much of what is left is severely damaged. Furious with the two men, Guanyu orders their execution. Persuaded that this would not be a good augury for this war, he instead has them whipped 40 times, and sends them to protect Nanjun and Gongan. They go, but with terrible resentment burning in their hearts, and a fear and loathing for Guanyu. Meanwhile, Guanyu is soon en route to Fanqing. In Fanqing, Cao Ren is all for attack, while Manchong, knowing of Guanyu's skills, advocates defense. But Cao Ren has the greater authority, and, leaving Manchong in the city to defend it, he rides out to engage with Guanyu. Almost as soon as the first encounter takes place, the Jingzhou men retreat, pursued by Cao Ren and his men. The same happens the next day until, fooled by this, Cao Ren suddenly finds himself caught up in an ambush. Seeing Guanyu standing passively on the hillside, Cao Ren is struck with terror and rushes from the battle scene, back to the security of Fanqing. As a result, Guanyu is able to seize the city of Xiangyang. However, Guanyu is conscious that, while he will be away taking Fanqing, others might try to attack and seize Jingzhou. To prevent this, he establishes a long chain of beacons to alert him to any such attack. Inside Fanqing, Manchong and Cao Ren meet, with Chao Ren apologizing for his mistake and Man Chong recommending that they now just sit this out inside the city walls. Despite this, one of Chao Ren's men is anxious to engage the enemy. "Give me a couple of thousand men," says Lu Chong, "and I will challenge them by the river." He denounces Man Chong's weakness in not going out to fight. Guanyu and his men are only halfway across the river. "If we attack now we can throw them back." So with 2,000 men, Lu Chong goes out to attack. No sooner do the men see Guanyu, riding confidently, sword resting in his arms, than panic breaks out. When Guanyu charges, Lu Chang's men flee. Half of them died that day. Seeing how desperate things are, Chao Ren sends urgent requests for help to Chang'an. Cao Cao chooses Eugene to go to the defense of Fancheng. He asks for a second in command, and a man stands up and says, "I want to get rid of Guanyu. I'll do whatever it takes." And who is this man? Let's find out.